Hi. With this presentation today, we hope to address several service design tools by demonstrating how they complement or interchange with one another. To do this, we developed a theoretical case study to help explain how our chosen methods fit into the service design process. The task at hand is to design a fitness app for a leading gym or fitness group. So diving straight in, let's firstly get our heads around what service design is. Essentially, we have a human-centered strategic design that optimizes the way customers and businesses interact so we can produce their aspired outcomes. The tools and methods of service design choreograph how people, processes, and technology come together to achieve unmatched customer experiences. To introduce ourselves and give you an outline of the structure of the presentation, I'll now go through some of the methods we will be covering. So hypothetically, our user personas and empathy maps were drawn up from qualitative research recordings after surveys results and interviews of stakeholders and people. Myself and Greta will present this stage with empathy mapping and a hypothetical data-driven formation of a persona, followed by pre-ideation methods of journey mapping and system mapping covered by Ada and Phil, leading into our brainstorming also covered by Phil, and finally the prototype stage, a concept walkthrough presented by Charlie. The explanation of the method will be followed by descriptions of said method, of how said method applies to our case study. We will provide a summary to conclude with some suggested technologies that apply to each method.
I will talk about personas, a concept that is normally created in the research stage. However, they act as a useful reference throughout the entire design process. So, what is a persona? Personas are fictional characters or hypothetical archetypes used in order to represent the different user types that might use your service, product, site, or brand in a similar way. The aim of using personas is to make groups with similar service needs more understandable, and by using these created profiles, you will build empathy towards customer groups. They reveal your users' needs, experiences, behaviours, and goals, and by engaging with these characters, it helps teams to get onto the same page. Similar to journey maps, personas can serve as boundary objects, which aligns interdisciplinary teams. Some companies may even use life-sized cardboard cutouts of their personas, which are present at meetings, acting as a reminder to keep these user profiles central to any decisions. It's important to note, however, that people with specific service needs or goals may not necessarily align with traditional segments in marketing. Linking this back to our theoretical case study, after conducting research in the form of user interviews and follow-up interviews with people of the target age of 20 to 35 to discover people's thoughts and ideas regarding nutrition and fitness apps, these insights were used to form our target user persona. According to Stickdawn, it is good to incorporate the following points when creating a persona: portrait, name, demographics, quote, mood images, description, and statistics. By incorporating these points in our persona as seen above, we are given a greater understanding of who our consumer is, in contrast to empathy mapping, which focuses more on uncovering sensory information. How do the customers think and feel, which will be further described in the next slide. To summarise, we can see that our persona is a time-restrained, working professional within the age of the target who is currently using fitness apps as she likes to keep active. However, her busy schedule means that she's missing an application that offers an all-in-one, easy-to-navigate solution to tracking her workouts and food intake.
Okay, now we'll discuss the method of empathy mapping. Mapping is an excellent exercise to perform to grasp a better understanding of the user profile and what they desire from your product, by essentially putting yourself in their shoes. So how do we put this into practice? So the first thing to do is to organise into small teams of roughly 2 to 4 in size and grab a large piece of paper or preferably a whiteboard. Using design thinking methodology, we implement 4 to 5 main character categories. The categories are think, say, feel, do, and needs. You can also add pain points and gain points as you work through your questions to get to know the problems and how your product is trying to resolve them. We use post-it notes to catch each observation. Following this step, you can then begin to place each note into one of the 5 segments. To recognize what notes to put where, we pose some questions like, is this something that they might have thought of, something they may have said, a feeling maybe, or perhaps something they are doing? So for example, with the heading say, anything they say that is of benefit will be placed here. Or with feel, this heading is to learn how our users feel. So they may say things like, I feel that won't work for me, or I feel excellent after I do that, and so on. Once we've got a complete empathy map, we can take a step back and reflect and introduce teaming. So we have all these post-it notes in different categories, but how does this help us move forward? This is the bit where the idea of teaming takes place. Once you have your post-it notes separated into each section, it's time to sift through each and identify teams. Imagine you happen to have numerous post-it notes, all addressing the same subject, but in separate ways. You can place them on top of each other, paint a ring around them, and label it. Teams help you see the key areas that need attention or focus. From here you can then look at pain points and how they might map to your user journey, or you can create statements that will then go on to drive personas. And to reiterate, empathy maps are handy whenever your team requires a greater understanding of the user's needs, such as collaborating on user personas and building the user and your user story. They help you sketch out these profiles and focus your information for better accuracy. Anyway, let's return now to our fitness app. Okay, so the concept was that we have gathered together the stakeholders of the company in question and sat them down in a room. We then asked them to arrange and classify their main user characters. Now, typically for any product or service, there is usually multiple user examples, but for our presentation, we'll examine only one, the previously mentioned Anna, who is a budget-conscious, non-technical consumer. So now we provide them with this template, a couple of markers and post-it notes, and request they fill it in. During this part, we'll begin to see that these notes could actually go into one section or the other. Well, this depends on how it is worded. But this always happens initially, and it's important to encourage them to just get stuff out of their minds and written down. We then develop and expand from this with a succession of rounds. So this is the kind of outcome that they should formulate. As you can see, in this hypothetical situation, our target user is experiencing a lot of annoyances with the way these apps enable her to track her weekly runs. She doesn't care about a lot of the more detailed fitness information, and she doesn't want to spend days trying to figure out the right app that best suits her needs.
System mapping is one of the pre-ideation process method, normally presented as a graph. System mapping is widely used to distinguish different service components and how they are linked within a system. So how to create a system map? First of all, prepare all of the data and information you've collected from the research stage. Then, get all of the service components listed on the paper. Prioritize them if you can. You then place all the components on the map, arrange them based on how you prioritize them. Also, remember to show how or if different components are connected. You can do this by sketching lines or dashed lines between them. So what are the advantages of system mapping? A system can become more understandable when structured in a graphical way. Participants can have a clear view of the whole service system and add value to it. Even a complex system can be understood with ease when we are using a system map. Easy to see connections in between service elements which are not that obvious. A system map also allows us to identify which part of the service to focus on in a more sensible way. For the disadvantages, system mapping cannot be applied to all settings. It can also be restrictive in certain situations. An expected outcome of a system map is an innovative network map, which allows every individual participant to expand and prototype ideas. We take the fitness app as an example. After we've done the research stage, we prepare all the data and information. We list the outcome of the research into logical orders or groups. For example, we can consider consumer behavior as one of the groups. Furthermore, we need to utilize the data collected from research stage. One should be able to predict customer needs and behaviors based on those data. For example, Anna is a school teacher, and we suppose other than a food intake tracker, water intake tracker, and a drink water reminder would be a useful function for her, since she might not have the opportunity to drink water on a regular basis, while she takes care of the kids for hours during the day.
Journey mapping is part of the pre-ideation phase. This is a visualization of the process that a person goes through in order to accomplish a goal. In more technical terms, it's a synthetic representation that describes a step-by-step of how a user interacts with a service. One of the pros include that it helps us to find gaps in customer experiences and to explore potential situations. Another pro is that journey maps help to make intangible experiences visible and to facilitate a common understanding between team members. However, a con of journey mapping is that there may be a complexity of the journey of not knowing where to start and therefore creating confusion. Another con is that they do not involve the stakeholders responsible for the different customer journey mapping touchpoints. Comparisons can be made with journey mapping and empathy mapping. Empathy mapping, as mentioned before, is strictly mapped into 4 quadrants into says, thinks, feels and does. But journey mapping, on the other hand, is more of a depiction of the whole experience, like a journey. So as they both consider empathy based on customers' feelings. Journey mapping clearly shows how a user is feeling, displaying their emotional flows as well as what they're thinking about different points in time while using the product, and in this case, our fitness app. So we can see from the example of the journey map based on our fitness app, where the user starts off excited to exercise, but then she feels irritated by the constant notifications she receives during the engagement scenario. But she finally overcomes this and feels grateful for using the app once she completes her first goal. Now I'm going to talk about brainstorming and brainwriting. Brainstorming and brainwriting are popular and easy ways to generate many ideas in the phase of ideation. The main facet of brainstorming is to discuss and suggest as many ideas as possible, freely without any fear of criticism, even ideas that may seem a little wild or far-fetched. There is never a right or wrong opinion with this. Brainstorming is a great starting point for work to ensure you come to grips with the theme, raise inspiration and to boost energy. Brainwriting is a similar method, and this is usually used when ideas are a little bit more complex, usually with larger groups, and to note the key importance of diversity. So, brainwriting is very useful for the more introverted and reticent participants who may not feel comfortable shouting out ideas. So this is a good way to empower the more quiet participants. So, what is the end goal? It is to cluster, analyse and prioritise the different items in order to identify the most practical ideas into solutions, and then defining the next steps into the convergent movement. The pros for brainstorming is that it promotes creativity, as you are pushed to think critically and imaginatively to make you come up with ideas that will make you stand out and be noticed. Another pro is that it enforces group cohesion, as you have no choice but to work closely together, and it creates a foundation for a stronger working relationship and to get to know one another better. However, a con for brainstorming is that there may be problems if the cohort may have poor communication skills, making points come across difficult. There can also be problems in terms of a potential tension and arguments arising, as some people may judge others' ideas and statements, creating a negative atmosphere. pros for brainwriting are that it is a time-efficient method, especially with using larger groups, more so than using brainstorming methods. Another pro is that it empowers quieter voices, as mentioned before. Cons for brainwriting involve that energy levels may be low, as this method is typically conducted in silence, and so there could be problems with motivating the group. The group can hinder the maximum potentials of ideas generation in this aspect. And another con is that there is a lack of communication, so there is no chance for an open dialogue with the rest of the team members. With brainstorming and brainwriting, it's important to create an environment where all participants embrace wild ideas and misunderstanding, which will allow you to reach further than you could by simply thinking logically about a problem. So, you can conduct your methods even in a caravan, for example. So during the brainstorming process, this typically involves the participants shouting ideas for the researcher to then write on the whiteboard. With brainwriting, on the other hand, participants can be given a series of post-it notes where they can write out or sketch out their ideas. We can translate this to our example of our fitness app, where participants can write up as many ideas on the post-it notes, as simple as suggesting maybe a running tracker or a calorie intake tracker, or being a little bit more ambitious with a more niche idea such as suggesting a single source authentic protein shot or strict meal plan suggestions. These ideas can be passed along and then developed further, and then ultimately these are all posted on a wall and clustered together through colour coordination, for example. The final output of this is idea descriptions through text and idea sketches through visualizations.
A concept walkthrough falls in the third stage of the design thinking process, which is prototyping. The aim of a concept walkthrough is to take a user through an imagined version of the service, website, or thing that you are design thinking. This either involves a step-by-step walkthrough or positing tasks for a user to complete and monitoring the ways they go about this. Both of these uncover useful and actionable insights about the method one takes to complete said task within this framework. It is essential to set the scope and aims of the walkthrough. For example, streamlining the ability for users to find certain content. This would come from the design thinking, the user experience optimization per se. This enables the information gained to be properly aimed towards the end goal of design thinking. To start the concept walkthrough, one should create a wireframe or some way to walk through a journey with the user or someone acting as the user. One would then need to set tasks for the user to follow and follow their progress in completing these tasks. Logging all bugs, ideas and happenings is key to building and improving on where you start from, as well as being able to use this to explain the reasoning for changes within the wireframe or the prototype that you've created for this concept walkthrough. This method is a low-cost and easily adjustable method to create good insight into software, hardware, service and products, and allows for wireframes, personas, system maps to be incorporated into the method. It also allows for great empathy building with the user, since the team may have to complete the tasks themselves if they're not using a user to complete them. This in turn also helps the whole team gain a good knowledge of the framework that they're working with. However, it can be hard to visualize the end product, and you must be careful not to jump steps doing tasks in this process, as the journey is important to uncover how users work with the wireframe.
Thank you for your time.